Green for go.
Cool. Hey everyone, my name's Cedric. I'm a senior partnership manager at Owkin, so I've been leading our interactions with US hospitals and academic medical centers since I joined about 16 months ago. So we've actually grown from 13 people when I joined to 80 in the last year and a half. We have offices in Paris, London, New York, which is where I'm based. And our talent is top machine learning and interdisciplinary talent, including bioinformaticians, geneticists, and we've really had some incredible traction. So both co-founders are French. Thomas Clausel, who is an oncohematologist, and Jules Henribe, who's a machine learning expert. And we're working with 7 of the top 8 top academic medical centers in France and the UK, and we're about a year behind in our rollout in the US, and we're working with 3 of the top 20 here. This is our scientific advisory board, so I think this is a good group of luminaries, including the ex-CEO of Novartis, the director of a precision medicine institute at Weill Cornell, and a senior researcher at Google Brain. So what do we do? The 2 co-founders, the reason that they created Owkin was there's been a lot of stepwise improvements in healthcare with the use of AI, especially as diagnosis, but the sort of moonshot new medical research as a result of AI really hasn't materialized, and Owkin is an attempt to use AI for medical research to make that happen. What does that actually look like at a granular level? So we build out predictive models from a lot of different data modalities. So we work with digitized pathology, we work with MRI, CT, also the full spectrum of omics and lab and clinical data. And we work with top academic researchers at their institutions. These are people who know their data, and we collaborate with them to build models that look at response to treatment and survival. So the promise of these models is that they push medical research forward. So we can then use these predictive models to look at predictive biomarkers, to look at high-value subgroups, and to really help pharmaceuticals and academic medical centers in pushing science forward through clinical trials. So when we're partnering with an institution, our promise is really that we're going to help a researcher, we're going to bring our machine learning expertise, we're going to help them make discoveries, we're going to help them publish on those discoveries in a way that they wouldn't have been able to otherwise. And the promise to the institution itself is if, for example, we come up with a model that's looking at response to treatment, when we're going to work with pharma later, we're going to help this institution, we're going to work with the innovations department to revenue share on that creation of that model. Our collaboration targets, specifically right now, we've narrowed this down a little bit. So in the last 6 months, we've been really focusing on hepatocellular carcinoma and lung cancer. So Thomas Clausel, especially, who's the oncohematologist of the co-founders, the vision for this was really, it's not AI to replace researchers, it's AI to augment medical research. And part of that vision is patient data is kind of sacrosanct. So when we're working with hospitals, when we're working with academic medical centers, we're never taking patient data off premise. We're building these models, the data stays on within the hospital firewall. And we've developed a technology, this federated learning, that lets us actually create collaborations across institutions without having to pull the data in one central place. So this is actually really key to building out the new level of science, because if you're taking a look at GDPR, if you're taking a look at trying to build collaborations across genomics data across international borders, it's impossible without technology like this. So this is a brief overview of what our network looks like. The goal, I think, is in the next 2 or 3 years to be reaching the top 50 academic medical centers in the world and connecting researchers with their data and pushing science forward. And then finally, I'll touch quickly upon something I think differentiates us from a lot of other players in the space. So the AI models are really a means to an end, and the end is pushing medical research forward. So something that we're really focused on is actually understanding why the machine learning models predict what they predict. And we have one predictive model that it's currently being reviewed for Nature publication, but when we went back and looked at what the model was pinpointing to make its survival prediction, we were able to identify specific hints into how the tumor microenvironment and how heterogeneity of the tumor was responsible for that survival prediction. And then that's it. I'm happy to take any questions.
I know you touched upon it, but if you could maybe go into a little bit more detail in terms of who's your customer. So I know with like research on AI, there are different levels. You can have like the graduate level with the researcher, you can go into pharma, and you can also go in terms of the hospital space as well when they have agent researchers working. So I guess and they all have different needs. So I guess the first question is like, who's your main customers, and then how are you reaching out and helping them in terms of like meeting their goals, because each one of them at different levels have different needs.
Yeah, sure. So I think there's really two wings to it. So the first is we're working with top PIs, academic medical centers, who are really interested in using AI to push their research forward. So to identify groups of high responders in cancer treatment, for example. So for that wing, the customer is the PI, and what we're bringing to them is the ability to answer questions that they wouldn't be able to answer without our help. And then the other wing is, once we've built out that type of predictive model, it's actually translating those learnings into new research and new science. So then we work with pharmaceuticals, so we work in the drug development space to use those models to change clinical trials.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, of course.